Kevin Stefanski is out, fired after a season-destroying power struggle with Cleveland Browns owner Jimmy Haslam over one decision: refusing to start Shedeur Sanders. It's not just another Browns meltdown. This was a full-on franchise implosion, detonated by ego, impulse, and a quarterback controversy that spiraled into organizational chaos. Stefanski wanted veteran Joe Flacco. Haslam demanded Sanders. And when Stefanski said no, the axe came down.
If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed.
This wasn't about football. It was about optics. Sanders, fresh off an electric college career and a flashy preseason, had fans fired up and the media circling. Haslam saw the headlines. He wanted the spotlight. He wanted his rookie out front, no matter what the coaching staff thought. When that didn't happen, Stefanski became collateral damage. Flacco wasn't failing either. He was steady. Boring, maybe, but effective. Stefanski, in typical coach fashion, went with the safe hands. But Haslam saw Sanders as his golden ticket, playing a 38-year-old journeyman over a rookie with celebrity pedigree. In Haslam's mind, it was football malpractice. This team has been stuck in a quarterback death spiral for decades. Johnny Manziel, Deshaun Kaiser, Baker Mayfield, Deshaun Watson. Remember that fully guaranteed $230 million disaster? And now, Shedeur Sanders. Another potential savior, another Browns reboot. The cycle never ends. And ownership keeps hitting the reset button before anything has time to stabilize. Behind the scenes, tension was boiling. Haslam pushed. Stefanski resisted. The locker room was divided. Fans were livid, chanting for Sanders, booing Flacco, questioning why the one glimmer of hope was still holding a clipboard. The media fed the frenzy, painting Cleveland as a dysfunctional mess. Again. And let's be honest, they're not wrong. This wasn't just about Sanders. This was about a franchise allergic to patience. A culture built on impulse, control, and scrambling for relevance. Haslam's demand to start Sanders wasn't strategic. It was performative. And when Stefanski stood his ground, it wasn't just a disagreement. It was career suicide. The fallout is classic Cleveland: a fired coach, a quarterback controversy on steroids, and an owner who thinks headlines win games. Stefanski's refusal to cave became the final straw. And now Sanders is likely starting, but not because it's the right football move. Because Haslam made it non-negotiable. The Browns could have handled this quietly. They could have planned a gradual transition, protected their rookie, and built something real. Instead, they've turned the Sanders era into another media spectacle before it even starts. And as always, they've done it to themselves. Kevin Stefanski has been fired. And not because of a losing record, not because of locker room drama, and not because the team imploded on the field. No, Stefanski's walking papers were signed the second he said no to Jimmy Haslam's demand to start rookie quarterback Shedeur Sanders. Yes, that Shedeur, college standout, preseason sensation, and apparently the most controversial benchwarmer in the NFL. This isn't just a coaching change. This is a power struggle dressed up as football strategy. Because when a billionaire owner decides he wants a rookie star on the field, not for development, not for wins, but for clout, you either play along or you pack your things. Let's be clear, Stefanski wasn't just coaching for wins. He was coaching for control. And by refusing to hand the keys of the offense to Sanders, he committed the ultimate Brown sin: defying ownership. Jimmy Haslam, a man who has overseen more quarterback changes than most franchises have playoff appearances, decided this time would be different. He wanted a headline. He wanted Sanders under center, and he wanted it now. Instead, Stefanski went with Joe Flacco. Veteran, safe, boring. A man with more playoff experience than pulse at this point in his career. And while Flacco might offer stability, he's also the poster child for just good enough to delay progress. But that's where the story gets messy. Because Shedeur Sanders wasn't just some shiny new rookie with a famous dad. He had earned his hype. His college stats were electric. His preseason snaps? Impressive. The fans saw it. The media saw it. Even rival teams started wondering when Cleveland would stop playing games and unleash the kid. But instead, Stefanski dug in his heels, and Haslam responded with a pink slip. This isn't just a one-off. It's the Browns in a nutshell. A franchise so addicted to quarterback drama, they might as well televise training camp as a reality show. 2 decades of musical chairs under center. Draft busts, mid-season trades, Hail Mary signings. And now a promising rookie benched because the coach wanted to win his way and the owner wanted to win the headlines. The fans? They're fed up. Chants for Sanders echoed through the stadium. Boos rained down when Flacco took the field. This wasn't subtle. The people wanted change, and they were watching, in real time, as the team sabotaged itself again. And the media? Oh, they had a field day. Sports radio lit up with takes. ESPN segments practically begged Cleveland to make the switch. National commentators were baffled. Why keep Shedeur on the sidelines when the team desperately needed a spark? The pressure was mounting. But instead of making the obvious move, the Browns doubled down on dysfunction. Haslam, sensing both an opportunity and a power vacuum, made his choice. Shedeur plays or Stefanski walks. And Stefanski chose the door. This wasn't about strategy. This was about ego. Because when you strip away the playbooks and press conferences, this is what's left. An owner desperate to prove he knows football better than his coaches, and a coach stubborn enough to challenge him. It's a tale as old as sports, except in Cleveland. It's become a franchise-defining curse. And really, what has this team learned? Name a quarterback the Browns haven't ruined in the last 20 years. From high draft picks to mid-season replacements, it's been a carousel of wasted talent and shattered potential. Now they've got a rookie with serious upside, and they're fumbling his development before it even starts. Sanders, by all accounts, was ready. He shined in college. He handled the preseason like a pro. He didn't just bring flash, he brought results. And yet, week after week, he sat on the bench while Flacco dragged the offense through the mud. The message? Experience matters more than talent. Or worse, ownership politics matter more than winning football games. It's no wonder the locker room looked lost. Players aren't blind. They see the chaos. They see the decisions being made for PR rather than production. And when a coach loses power to ownership meddling, the whole system collapses. Authority gone. Trust gone. Identity gone. Stefanski, for all his faults, tried to keep that locker room together. He made a football decision, whether you agree with it or not, and paid the ultimate price. But make no mistake, this wasn't about wins and losses. This was about refusing to play Haslam's game. And now the Browns are in freefall. You've got a fan base in open revolt, booing their own team, chanting for a quarterback who can't even get a snap. You've got the media openly mocking your franchise, calling you cursed, unstable, unserious. And you've got a rookie who was supposed to be your future, caught in the middle of a power play that has nothing to do with football. It's hard not to feel like this could have been avoided. Play Sanders. Let the kid grow. If he fails, at least you know. If he thrives, you finally have a reason to believe again. But instead, Cleveland chose dysfunction. Again, this could have been a turning point. A rare chance to reset the narrative. The Browns could have handed the ball to Sanders and started building something real. Something long-term. Instead, they chose headlines over hope, ego over evolution. Now the question isn't just, when will Sanders start? It's, what damage has already been done? You've got a divided fan base, a fractured locker room, and a reputation that somehow got even worse. Let's not pretend this is just about one coach and one quarterback. This is systemic. This is cultural. The Browns have built a house on instability, and every time they try to fix the foundation, they start with the curtains. And until someone in that building decides to actually change how they operate, from ownership down, this cycle will never end. Sure, Haslam got his way. Stefanski's gone. Sanders is probably starting soon. But at what cost? What message does that send to the next coach? Follow orders or else. What message does it send to the players? Talent won't save you from politics. And what message does it send to Sanders himself? Your future depends on how well you fit into a drama you didn't ask to be part of. Cleveland could have made this easy. Let the kid play. Let the coach coach. Let the team build. Instead, they detonated everything for control. There's still time to course correct. Sanders could still be the quarterback Cleveland's been waiting for. The fans would rally. The media would pivot. The narrative could shift from chaos to comeback. But only if the people in charge let football people make football decisions. Until then, it's just another chapter in the Browns' cursed legacy. A chapter titled, Hope Benched. Ego wins. So what now? Will Cleveland finally let Sanders lead the way? Will they stop sabotaging themselves from the inside? Or are we just watching the latest rerun in a franchise that's been stuck in the same loop since Y2K? Comment below. Should the Browns have fired Stefanski, or was he the only adult in the room? And don't forget to hit subscribe. We've got plenty more chaos to cover, because in the NFL, the drama never sleeps. Now that Stefanski's out and Shedeur Sanders is presumably next in line, you'd think Cleveland might finally be gearing up for a new era. A fresh chapter. We've finally learned from our mistakes moment. But if you've followed this team for more than 5 minutes, you already know better. In Cleveland, every hopeful step forward is just a setup for the next viral implosion. Let's talk about how we got here in the first place. Shedeur Sanders didn't just walk into the NFL with a famous last name and an Instagram following. The kid earned this spotlight. He dominated in college, brought eyes and electricity to every game he touched, and proved he could handle pressure. Then he shows up in Cleveland. Of all places, balls out in the preseason. And what happens? Nothing. No starting job. No long leash. Not even a developmental plan. He's told to sit tight while the team hands the offense to Joe Flacco, the living embodiment of football inertia. Don't get it twisted. Flacco was fine. But fine isn't why you draft a dynamic young QB. Fine isn't going to win over a fan base that's already drafted 24 quarterbacks since 1999. Fine is what Cleveland always settles for, and look where that's gotten them. And this isn't just about benching Sanders. This is about how franchises lose control of their own narratives. Stefanski was trying to play chess, while Haslam was flipping the board over. And now the team's stuck in between, without a head coach, with a quarterback controversy baked into the next several weeks, and with absolutely no clear direction. Because once you fire a coach because he wouldn't start a rookie, what happens when that rookie struggles? Are you going to fire the next coach too? Or do you bench the golden boy and restart the circus? This isn't just bad decision-making. It's organizational malpractice. Let's talk about the message this sends throughout the NFL. What smart, experienced coach is going to look at the Browns and say, yeah, sign me up for that gig? You could be doing everything right, developing players, sticking to a system, trying to win. And then boom, you get fired because the owner wants more Twitter buzz. This isn't just toxic. It's radioactive. Meanwhile, the fan base is absolutely losing it. They've watched this team burn through quarterbacks, coaches, GMs, coordinators, you name it. And now they're watching a guy like Sanders, someone who actually gives them a reason to believe, just rot behind a clipboard while ownership plays fantasy football in real life. Let's not forget, Cleveland is a football city. This fan base lives and breathes this team, even when the team has given them nothing but pain in return. And now, after all the years of being told to trust the process and wait for the right guy, the one time it feels like there is a right guy, he's not even allowed to play until someone gets fired. And yes, the media has absolutely torched the Browns for this. National outlets have turned Cleveland into a punchline again. Headlines scream dysfunction. Commentators barely hide their laughter when discussing how many quarterbacks the Browns have wasted. And honestly, it's hard to argue with them. Because what's worse than being bad? Being predictably bad. Being the kind of bad that people see coming from a mile away and still can't look away from. The Browns had a real chance here. A rookie quarterback with star potential. A head coach who, say what you want, was actually building some consistency. And what do? Detonate it for a power move. Classic. Now let's talk about Sanders for a second, because this kid is stuck in the weirdest possible situation. You got one of the most hyped college careers in recent memory. You deliver in the preseason. and yet your future's being held hostage by egos above your pay grade. How do you develop in this kind of environment? How do you grow when every snap you take is going to be scrutinized, not just for performance, but for politics? Because you know the second Shedeur throws an interception, the whispers will start. Was Haslam wrong? Did we rush him? Was Stefanski right to wait? It's exhausting. And it's completely avoidable. This is where Cleveland always loses the plot. They confuse urgency with chaos. There's a difference between making a bold move and lighting the building on fire to see who runs out. Starting Sanders could have been a bold move if it came from a place of football strategy. But forcing the issue with a threat behind it? That's not leadership. That's desperation. Let's be real. Haslam didn't just want to win. He wanted to own the win. He wanted to point at the scoreboard and say, "See? That was my call." And that's the problem. Because when you need to be the smartest guy in the room, you start making decisions that serve your ego instead of the team. If this feels familiar, that's because it is. This is the same pattern that sunk this team over and over. Draft a promising quarterback. Surround him with dysfunction. Fire everyone. Rinse and repeat. They did it with Baker Mayfield. They did it with Johnny Manziel. They did it with Brady Quinn, with Colt McCoy, with Deshaun Kaiser. The names change, but the cycle doesn't. And now Shedeur Sanders is next in line. Only this time, the stakes feel even higher. Because if he turns out to be the real deal, and that's still an if, then this could have been the turning point. The moment Cleveland finally broke the pattern. But if he flames out, or worse, gets crushed by the pressure and the politics, then it's back to square one. Again, you've got a locker room caught in the crossfire. A front office that probably just lost what little credibility it had left. And a franchise that continues to be defined by what it could have been instead of what it is. And yet, somehow, despite all this, there's still a sliver of hope. Because Shedeur Sanders is that talented. He could still save this team from itself. If, and this is a big if, he's given the space to lead, to fail, to learn. If he's allowed to be more than just a pawn in a billionaire's PR campaign. But it won't matter unless the people running this organization finally get out of their own way. You can't build a winning culture on chaos. You can't attract top coaching talent when they know you'll undercut them at the first disagreement. And you can't expect a young quarterback to carry a franchise while navigating a political minefield. Cleveland doesn't need another savior. They need a system, a plan. A culture that actually supports development instead of tearing it down the second it doesn't generate headlines. Because that's the irony, right? The Browns are desperate for relevance, but they keep making themselves a joke. They want to be taken seriously, but they can't stop stepping on rakes. If they actually believed in Sanders, they'd have built the team around him quietly, deliberately, and strategically. Instead, they built a circus tent, threw him in the spotlight, and fired the coach who dared to suggest maybe, just maybe, it wasn't the right time. So here we are. The season is spiraling. The locker room is shell-shocked. And Shedeur Sanders, whether he's ready or not, is now the face of this mess. Congratulations, Cleveland. You've done it again. Will Sanders rise above the noise and finally give this franchise something to believe in? Or is he just another name on a jersey that's already stretched down to someone's knees? Time will tell. But if history's any indication, the Browns will find a way to make it dramatic, chaotic, and just a little bit tragic. Let's just hope this isn't the last chapter in Shedeur's story. Because this kid deserves better than to be the next cautionary tale in Cleveland's quarterback graveyard. But here's the kicker. None of this chaos is surprising anymore. That's the saddest part. Browns fans aren't even shocked. They're just exhausted. They've seen this movie before. It's got too many sequels, the plot never changes, and somehow the ending always manages to be worse than the beginning. Only now, the stakes feel higher because Shedeur Sanders isn't just another draft pick. He's the symbol of what could be. And Cleveland? Cleveland has a long history of breaking symbols. There's this unspoken fear now, hanging over every pass Sanders will throw. Because he's not just playing quarterback, he's carrying the weight of every failed rebuild, Every quarterback jersey with 30 crossed out names. Every Sunday where hope got fumbled before halftime. He's walking onto a field that chews up potential and spits it out with a headline and a 6-11 record. And if you think the pressure is high on Sanders, imagine what it's like for whoever the next head coach is. Because the message from the top is now crystal clear. Play the owner's favorite or you're gone. Forget scheme, forget matchups, forget development. This is reality TV dressed as football strategy. And the only way to keep your job is to hand the ball to the guy Jimmy Haslam tells you to. What competent coach wants that job? What quarterback thrives in that environment? And what fan base keeps showing up when the team clearly doesn't respect their intelligence? The Browns keep selling the same thing. Just wait, this time it's different. And to be fair, sometimes it almost feels true. They get a big win, a shiny new draft pick, a promising stat line, and then the floor gives out. Again. And now, they've made Shedeur Sanders the center of a story he didn't ask to star in. He just wanted to play football. Instead, he's being treated like a marketing tool, a pawn in a turf war between a coach trying to do things the right way and an owner obsessed with headlines. It's not fair. It's not smart. And it's definitely not sustainable. But here we are. Again. So yeah, Sanders will probably start. The cameras will roll. The fans will scream. The media will foam at the mouth. And maybe, he'll rise above it all. But if the Browns don't change the culture around him, if they keep making decisions based on ego instead of football logic, then we already know how this story ends. So go ahead, comment your thoughts. Should Stefanski have stood his ground? Will Shedeur survive the Cleveland curse? And if you're still holding out hope for this franchise, you're stronger than most. Don't forget to hit subscribe. We're just getting started. Because if there's one thing you can count on in Cleveland, it's that the meltdown is never over.